Welcome boxers to a brand new video here in the Geek Box. Comics are full of memorable moments, epic battles, legendary dialogue, and crossovers craved by the fans. But one of the elements that also enters this category, and that sometimes takes even more fame than a heroic victory, is deaths. Tragic falls of characters who fought for good, or simply very graphic deaths that even caused controversy. In this video, we will talk about the ones that have stayed the most in the memory of fans due to their brutality. And now, without further ado, let's begin. Peter Parker eats his family. The Marvel Zombies universe is not exactly the most prosperous of all, and in this one, we had the conversion of Spider-Man to a flesh eater due to a bite inflicted by Captain America, who in this universe is called Colonel America. Peter arrives home extremely scared, and although his Aunt May and Mary Jane try to help him, he soon succumbs to the effects of hunger and devours them. When Nova arrives to see what happens, the only thing that's left are remains. The Joker kills Jason Todd. The death of Jason Todd, the second Robin, was quite the event in the myth of the Gotham Bat, and in the way of presenting the death of a character, since for this event in particular, DC Comics enabled a telephone line in which fans could vote on whether Robin lived or died by dialing one or the other number. At that time, Jason Todd turned out to be a character not very accepted by fans due to his attitude. In that way, his death in the issue 427 of the Batman comic is an extremely heartbreaking death, not only because of the way he died, but because of the context that surrounds it. Robin had discovered that the woman who had raised him was apparently not his real mother, so there was a possibility that his biological mother was still alive. Jason would look for her to the other side of the world, and Batman, who had gone after him to return him home, seeing how excited he was to meet her, decided to help him. Surprisingly, they find her, so Batman decides to leave them alone to share time together, and incidentally investigate other matters such as the whereabouts of the Joker, who had been shown to be in the area negotiating with terrorists. The situation is summarized in that Robin discovers that the Joker visits the center where his mother worked, since she was in charge of the management and distribution of medicines for communities weakened by war conflicts. What the Joker was looking for was to steal the medicines, and in return, send trucks loaded with laughing gas to the collection centers. Batman would go after the trucks and ask Jason to wait for him, but the young man, as hot-headed as ever, could not leave his mother alone in the hands of the Joker. He walks over and meets her, revealing to her that he is Robin. Learning of his secret identity, his mother asks him to come with her inside, telling him that the Joker had already left, but it was all a lie. She explains to him that she can't risk the new career she's built, so she won't let him tell anyone that she deals with the Joker. It is at this moment that we witness one of the most brutal and remembered sequences in the history of Batman. We see the Joker brutally beat Robin with a crowbar, leaving him nearly dead in a pool of blood. Not content with that, the clown prince of crime ends up tying up Jason's mother and leaving them locked in a warehouse with a load of explosives. Batman would try to get there as soon as possible, but he wouldn't make it in time, and the panel where he walks defeated with Robin's corpse in his arms would become historical. Want to know what's the worst part of it all? That even though she had literally handed him over to the Joker and to his death, in his last moments, Jason still tried to save his mother. Wasp is devoured by Blob. In the year 2009, Marvel would publish a mini-series called Ultimatum, a cataclysmic event that takes place in the Ultimate Universe. After a huge wave floods New York City, Hank Pym and Hawkeye desperately search for Janet Van Dyne, Hank's wife, and when they finally find her whereabouts, the scene is horrible. A mutant named Blob had started to devour her and would pronounce the phrase, tastes like chicken. Inevitably, this atrocious scene would obviously raise controversy, but it would not end there, since Blob would die immediately after at the hands of Hank Pym himself, who in revenge would bite his head off. Ultimately, Hank would also sacrifice himself in quite the graphic fashion, letting a group of bomb-wielding mutant clones scale his body, wade out into the sea, and blow his body to the bone. There is another quite brutal death within this same saga, but we will talk about it later. Midnighter versus the Commander. The Authority may not be one of the most popular comics in history, but it definitely enjoyed a certain popularity among adult comics fans. Created by Warren Ellis and written for some time by Mark Millar, it is a saga specifically characterized by its high degree of violence and irreverence, and among its many illustrious moments, we could highlight the one in which Midnighter, a kind of parody of Batman, takes revenge against the Commander, a twisted parody of Captain America. The context, which is no small thing either, is as follows. During a battle, the commander, accompanied by a character named Storm God, attack Apollo, a reference character of Superman. Together, they brutally beat him up, and to top off his humiliation, the commander sexually abuses him. This would not go unpunished, and Midnighter, who is Apollo's husband, would want revenge. In their next confrontation, Apollo easily beats both of them and burns the commander's legs to immobilize him. When the soldier believed that Apollo would kill him plain and simple, he replies that he will not, since he promised to leave that task to a friend. It is then that Midnighter appears with a hydraulic hammer, and while it's not explicitly shown in the comic, thank God, it's suggested that Midnighter ended the commander's life by drilling him with the hydraulic hammer in, you know, where it doesn't shine the... Needless to say, Mark Millar was asked directly if these two traumatic events really happened, since they are not shown in the comic. They are only suggested in the reader's imagination. But Millar replied precisely that. I will not say. I will leave it entirely to the interpretation of the fans, and it's not necessary to clarify again what interpretation the community gave it. The death of Bart Allen. Bart Allen is the grandson of Barry Allen, and the fourth character to have adopted the mantle of Flash. Although his time as the Scarlet Speedster was not the most brilliant period for the character, he was able to make his mark with a memorable ending. In issue number 13 of his collection, The Flash, the Fastest Man Alive, Bart faces a massive challenge. Inertia, an evil clone created from Bart's genetics, would join the Rogues to carry out a plan that would give them ultimate victory. Together, they build a machine which they use to drain the speed force from Bart's body, rendering him completely without powers. It is at this moment that the Rogues take advantage of Bart's weakness to attack him with everything they have, disable him with their weapons, and subsequently proceed to beat him to such an extent that they literally beat him to death. In fact, in that same comic, we are shown a few scenes of characters close to Bart learning of his death, among whom we see Jay Garrick and Robin. Without a doubt, an incredibly difficult moment. This event would be remembered not only for its brutality, but also for the emotional tribute that would be paid to him later at the Countdown event. Hundreds of heroes and citizens would flock to Bart's memorial, where Tim Drake, the third Robin, would inform everyone that Bart had given him a CD that he asked him not to play until the moment he died. In it, there was a video of Bart Allen talking to all his friends in the Teen Titans, and saying that even if he died, they should not worry about him, since he felt extremely happy and lucky to have such admirable companions to call friends, and making it clear how much he enjoyed his life as a superhero. Dormammu strangles Doctor Strange. As I told you earlier in this video, Ultimatum is an event that holds more moments of pure gore, and this one specifically involves Stephen Strange and his nemesis, Dormammu. During a fit of rage from the Hulk at Doctor Strange's sanctuary, the resulting disaster causes Dormammu to be released, gaining access to the Earth dimension. Strange would quickly try to stop him, but the Emperor of the Dark Dimension catches him with his own belt with terrifying ease, ending with his opponent by strangling him so hard that rather than suffocate him, it causes his head to explode, and his body falls to the ground. Wolverine destroys Hulk. This could be considered a 2-for-1. In the Old Man Logan story, Wolverine faces off against a darker and visibly older version of the Hulk, but still no less dangerous. In their impressive confrontation, the Hulk devours Logan in a bizarre manner, and shortly after that same night, the Hulk begins to feel ill. Suddenly, Logan rips him apart from the inside, breaking free. He had managed to survive thanks to his healing factor, regenerating inside the Hulk's stomach, an undeniably shocking death. Kyle Rayner's girlfriend. If we talk about controversial moments, we should certainly mention Green Lantern number 54, since in this issue, a villain known as Major Force breaks into Kyle Rayner's house while he was resolving another conflict. Major Force proceeds to beat up and suffocate Kyle's girlfriend in cold blood. As if that weren't enough, when Kyle returns home, he finds a note on the table that says "Surprise for you" in the fridge. And when he opens it, he finds his girlfriend compacted in there. This was an extremely strong vignette and traumatic loss for Kyle Rayner. The Punisher vs. Daken. During the Dark Reign arc, one of the saddest and bloodiest endings was for the Punisher, besieged by Norman Osborn and his reformed Hammer Agency. The Green Goblin, who in that period had adopted the alias of Iron Patriot, decides to send a group of agents and Daken, the son of Wolverine, to hunt down Frank Castle. Frank would try to escape, but eventually Daken corners him. They have a fierce fight in which Daken takes advantage of his claws and destroys Frank's face, cuts his chest and part of his neck, and then proceeds to cruelly dismember him piece by piece to finish decapitating him and throwing the Punisher's remains into an alley. In his last moments, more than thinking about the fight, Frank could only think about one thing: Maria, his wife, who must be watching him from beyond the grave and waiting to finally meet him again. This death is truly graphic and has been one of the most brutal defeats in Frank Castle's career. Sentry breaks Ares. Following this plotline of Dark Reign, within the very grim Siege saga, the Marvel heroes would unite to try to stop Norman Osborn and his group of subordinates, among whom were Ares, the son of Zeus, and Sentry. Norman would orchestrate a siege on Asgard, where Ares would realize the mistake he was making by supporting Osborn, so he would rebel and go against him. Sentry would not allow this betrayal to go unpunished and would face Ares, thus giving one of the most remembered vignettes in the history of Marvel Comics, where Sentry takes Ares and with extreme ease breaks him in half, filling the full page with an illustration of his intestines and an explosion of blood, an event that would shock all the characters in the battle. This death had such relevance for the fans that later a kind of twisted tribute would be paid to him in the King in Black arc, with Sentry now being the one who would die at the hands of Null in practically the same way. Those are just a few of the most brutal deaths we've come to witness in comics, but if you know of or remember any more, feel free to share them in the comments. Well, that's all for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to continue enjoying more content. In the description, you have the links to the official socials of the channel, so that you know about new videos and the latest news on cinema, comics, video games, and others. This was the Geek Box. See you later.